The Adirondack Mountains are the only place for me. With my dog, my Jeep, friends and my hubby. Grab a cup of coffee and sit on down with me. We will tell the tales of the places I got to see. Nature, Adirondack stores, and even ADK coffee. Grab some coffee and join ADK Nani. Coffee with ADK Nani.
Oh, that's some good maple coffee. Oh, hi everybody, welcome. Welcome to Coffee with ADK Nani. This is my premiere episode, and I will normally have a different mug, but this week, can you guess who I'm talking about with my mug? Candy Mountain Maple. Yes, so back in March, Thurman, New York hosted what they called Maple Days. And we had a Maple Day crawl, the Adirondack Queen and I, where we went to every place that was participating over the course of 2 days. And we met people. People actually went there to meet with us. And it was just such a blast. My husband, unfortunately, during the Maple Days crawl, did not get there in time to go to Candy Mountain Maple. So he and I went back the following weekend, which was the final weekend, and we got to experience Maple Days together. And we went to, like I said, we went to Candy Mountain, and it was a completely different process. The owner of Valley Road said, hey, go check them out. They have a different science. So we did. And what truly amazed me was how all the different places we went to all did their process differently, but all ended up with some amazing tasting syrup. I tried syrup from everywhere. So I hope you get to enjoy this process. I love the unique process that they use and the science behind it. And I hope you enjoy it too. And don't get scared just because I said science. It's actually really interesting. And I hope you enjoy this episode. I'll catch you at the end. All right, thank you. And ADK Nani out. Hey everybody, it's ADK Nani here, and this is Candy Mountain Maple revisited by my husband and myself. The top row you see here is samples of the sap that they have already collected this year. Candy Mountain was selling these mugs for $5 with all of the proceeds going to the North Country Ministry Food Pantry. I thought that was so nice that I, of course, got myself a mug. Although this evaporator machine looked really cool, I was more intrigued by the tubes with the bites on them. So let's go see what they had to say about that.
So if we have anything that's nibbled the line or broken anywhere along any of our sap lines, we have gauges at each of the major breakpoints. These are diagrams of both of our main lines. So we have gauges at both sides that will tell us if there's a drop in pressure. So that way we're able to turn off that portion of the line, go up, find the break, and repair it. And then we have the sap flowing again without interfering with our other lines.
So what is your biggest felon? Is it a squirrel?
I think it's usually squirrels and deers.
Deer?
I'm not specifically sure. Mike Richter does most of the repairs. We come up throughout the year to help him with tapping, to help him with Maple Days.
How many taps are there?
Oh, we have 1,100.
1,100. Oh, okay, 1,100.
Yeah, we were able to do them over about 3 days. There's 7 or 8 of us.
You can do that many times?
Right after the New Year's.
So you tap right after the New Year, and so the tubing doesn't stay up year round?
We replace the taps each year, and the couple of feet, I think, gets switched every few years.
Oh, that's really good to know.
Right around the tree, like these green lines that we use.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Ask to fill the vacuum. I'm going to fill the vacuum.
The vacuum, I think, turns on once it gets above freezing.
Oh yeah, it's like in the 20s. That's not going to happen.
Unfortunately.
All right. Oh, all right. Thank you. I appreciate it. What's your name?
I'm Joe.
Joe. Okay.
Yeah. This shows the types of maples that we have.
Wait, you can put more than one tap on a tree.
Yeah.
Astonishing.
So we start tapping when they're 9 to 10 inches in diameter. That's the sort of industry standard, being USDA certified organic. We've done courses through Cornell, follow best practices from them and the industry. So we start at 9 to 10. As it kind of doubles in size, and we usually let it go a little beyond that, we can add additional taps. If you have one of those trees that has like a really wide base and then 2 large trunks, you can tap each trunk.
Yeah, that's how mine is.
Yeah.
The one, well, in my house in Rochester.
Yeah, so we have some trees that have 3 and 4 taps in them.
Oh, wow.
Those are really big ones. But most of them have just 1, maybe 2.
Okay.
This is an old piece of sugar maple that's been plain cut, and it's done with the older style taps and in kind of a haphazard method. You can see how close some of these taps are. And this darker pieces of wood, that's some of the tissue damage that can occur when you're drilling deep, drilling wider holes. So taps that we use, they're narrower than the metal ones, they're narrower than the wooden ones that are there behind you. And you can even just see how, kind of loose these would fit in. When we're tapping trees, we want to go several inches over and about 8 to 10 inches up or down. So we kind of use our hand as a guide.
Oh.
And we would go somewhere up in here.
Okay.
Year to year. So we would find the old tap hole, move to that other location. And each year the tree is able to heal enough, say somewhere maybe around 50%. And as you go around the tree, once you get back to that original side, it's healed enough that you can tap and you're not going to have any loss of sap. The tree's been able to heal and
Well, that's amazing.
healthy to keep tapping it.
Wow. Thank you.
Of course.
I appreciate it. So here we just learned about the taps. How many taps they put out every year, how many different types of maple trees that they have, because I thought they would all be sugar maples, but they have different maples. Now we get to learn about the process. Now that the trees are tapped, we're going to learn about how the vacuum brings them to the building. So go ahead and watch. Thank you. So once the sap is collected and then uses the vacuum system to take it to its holding tank, then it goes into the vacuum room.
Sap containment on the other side of this building. We have a 2,000-gallon tank of sap, right? When we are ready to do a run, we're going to run it through this machine. This is our RO, also known as a reverse osmosis machine. Now what this essentially is a series of multiple stage tight membrane filters at a molecular level that are going to help us create what we call a sap concentrate. Now the sap concentrate, you get to pull water off with this machine and you get to concentrate the sugars with this machine. Now when you pull that water off, you can either just flush it down the drain or you can capture it. You've essentially just removed 70% of the water from your sap. It is clean, usable water, essentially deionized water. So we're putting that in another holding tank we have on the other side of the building. After going through this, I'm taking it from 2% sap, right? So that sugar content's 2% to up to 15% sugar content. With our 15% sugar concentrate, right? That's our concentrate. That is what we're going to run into our evaporator in the other room. It's our pans. Now on a good day, you need to get that sap to a boiling point, right? That's somewhere around 219, 220, depending on your barometric pressures. I don't know what it is today. I have to look at the computer. But we're going to take that sap concentrate at about 40 degrees, which is your random temperature in the room, run it into a series of flues that are suspended in all the steam that's already being taken off as it's boiling. And it's going to heat it from that 40 degrees to about 160, 180 degrees. That means that we actually have it boiling in our pans to make maple syrup and turn it from that 15% to that 67%. We're only heating it for that last little bit to about from 180 to that 219. So I've only got to heat it for about 40 degrees. So it's a lot less time in your pan. It's a lot more efficient of a burn for your fuel usage, and you're capturing all that steam and using that energy one more time before you end up with your finished 67% sugar content organic maple syrup.
Essentially, it's like a geothermal system.
Essentially, yeah.
Can you
it's
repeat
all
that?
closed loops.
Huh?
Repeat that. I don't know if it picked
It's
it up.
essentially like a geothermal system, basically,
said
because
geothermal
you're reusing the heat from the steam, repumping right through, heating it back all
So-
up.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So this is
very-
what-
very efficient.
It's almost like one of those when
I
we
bet your cost of goods goes down tremendously.
It minimizes our fuel usage for sure.
it's almost like when we went to the museum on Sites and Industry, like that
something
eco-friendly
like that,
house,
yeah.
like they call it a smart house.
Yep. An earth ship.
Because you're
A what?
reusing.
Earth ships. Very common for use.
Pardon this interruption for a little announcement. So I kept the question and answer section in there. I did not edit it out because it actually really helped explain to a couple people who've seen the video in layman's terms how it works. So I hope you enjoyed that. Now back to our show. The video cut out right here, or the sound did, but the question was, how are you different from the other maple farms in Thurman? Right after I asked this, Mike came in, so he actually took over and answered the question for us.
All right, the basic principles all the same, right? We all evaporate sap concentrate that's made through an RO process to make maple syrup, right? What we do a little bit differently is my wife and I are both retired environmental chemists. Okay, we bring all of that science to our process, and when we designed the facility, we did so with the interest of sustainability, environmental friendliness. Okay, we wanted to make an organic, chemical-free product, and we wanted to do it in the most energy efficient manner possible. So for example, if you see behind me, my vacuum pump is computer controlled to minimize the amount of amperage we use. There's a separate small module here that controls the on and off cycle based on temperature. So my vacuum pump will only turn on automatically when the sap can flow above 32 degrees. Right today it's frozen, you don't see anything happening, nothing's moving.
Yeah.
Okay. So when it does kick on, this will kick on automatically at 32. This little computer module will manage the RPMs of the pump to maximize the vacuum to my trees while minimizing the amount of power that I use. Okay. The waste heat from this pump operating during maple season is sufficient to heat this room and the kitchen next door, and that's the reason for the waste heat circulating fan, and that's the reason we smell chili today, because that's in the crock pot for lunch.
Oh wow, that is really cool.
But the idea is that when this is running, I'm not using any heaters. Today that's obviously not the case, right? So that said, just like all the other maple farms in the area, we use a high vacuum system. It's safer for the trees because we can use smaller taps. We don't over tap. We're USDA organic certified, which means we get inspected every year. And our materials of construction were fully inspected. This is all potable water, National Sanitation Foundation approved pipe. Every inch of this pipe, I can tell you, was inspected by the USDA before I started operations. We're also New York State grown and certified. New York State grown and certified is essentially a food safety program and a maple food safety program activity that also has an environmental component to it for compliance with all of the New York DEC environmental rules. Okay, so I don't know if you noticed coming in the door, but there are 5 or 6 certificates hanging by the door.
I saw
Those
them.
are all Cornell Maple Food Safety Program. I took it, my son took it, my daughter took it, Joe took it, Stephanie took it. So basically the people that you see here helping us today went through that Maple Food Safety training course so that when they work with me, it's all family.
We are family.
Basically. When they work with me, I know that they know what they're doing. They're not going to contaminate the food. Right? One other thing that we really need to keep in mind, and the reason for our USDA organic certification, not so much that I'm going to go out and hug trees. I'm an environmental chemist. I dedicated my career to it, but it's not just about hugging trees. It's about food safety. When you think about it, maple syrup is made from sap, which has anywhere from 1% to about 2 to 2.5% sugar in it. To get maple syrup, you need to concentrate that up to about 67%. Right? So you concentrate it at least 25, 30 times, depending on how much sap originally comes in. If you go from 1%, you're concentrating it 67 times to get to 67%. If you start off with 2%, it's half that. It's what, 33 times? If you put a contaminant by accident into the sap because of materials of construction are not correct, or you have bad food handling practices or something like that, whatever you put in the process by accident into the sap will get concentrated just like the sugars in the final food product.
Ew, gross.
So I'm going to say if you have methyl ethyl bad chemical ends up in your sap, it will get concentrated to the nth degree by the time it gets into your food. So think of the USDA certification as your assurance that we're producing a high quality, clean food product. That's the USDA piece and the environmental piece for New York State. Everything around you is recycled. Okay, you're standing on recycled windmill blades. Okay, the concrete company that I bought the cement from when it was, when we put up the building, uses recycled windmill blades in their process to not only heat their kiln, but the fiberglass that was in the windmill blades winds up in the concrete as a strengthener to make it strong. When fiberglass has been used in concrete for years and years and years, this is just another way to recycle materials. Those cabinets came from somewhere in Saratoga at a yard sale. The ones in my shop came from somewhere up in Ticonderoga. I met a guy, had something on for sale on Facebook Marketplace. The idea is we wanted to make sure that we're recycling as much as we possibly can. When we bring kids groups through and those kinds of things, we tell them that all we want to do is we want to be as healthful or healthy to the trees and help manage the forest in a sustainable way. Okay, we don't cut anything, we don't trim anything out that doesn't need to be trimmed to get around. It's a natural forest. We're not managing it to the betterment of maple trees. We believe a diverse forest does a better job in producing healthy trees. I get between 400 and my peak was about 525 gallons.
That's a lot of gallons of syrup every year.
It's all dependent on the weather and Mother Nature. This year we got a late start. We had one very short run during the January thaw, which didn't produce, we didn't produce any syrup during that time. We were able to what we call sweeten the evaporator. That's where you put the sap and you boil it, but you don't get anything out the other end because you didn't have enough sap. We froze that concentrate and we stored it until the season started in March. The beginning of March, you like to see the sap start to flow, but we didn't really see anything until just about the beginning of the second week. Most commonly, you start seeing decent runs the last week in February, and they really pick up in March. Here, we didn't see anything until the second week in March.
It was a brutal winter, a very brutal winter.
I don't know if you guys follow Facebook, but take a look at Facebook and you'll see the different rates of the sap coming into this machine. We had a couple of what the old timers call gusher runs. Like the gusher in the oil business, just so much is coming out, you can't handle it. We're sized to get about to be able to store about 1.5 gallons per tap or per tree per day with the tankage we have. And that's considered ample storage. That's considered like a little bit of an over design. We had situations last week where I was getting 1,400 gallons of sap in 12 hours.
That's a lot of gallons of sap. That is a very lot of gallons of sap.
Which is crazy fast. But like I said, because we were sized the way we are, we were able to keep up with it, and keep up with all our, food safety practices. But it was really a challenge. The other thing that we do is you won't see steam in the sugar house.
Why is there no steam in the sugar house?
You'll see wisps of steam. You'll see a little bit of steam over the syrup cans, but you don't see a lot of steam because we recapture the waste heat from the steam. As the steam is boiling, we capture the heat from that steam. It preheats the coils. We separate the condensate. Again, that's distilled water. Catch that in trays. That runs along the white line back down along the wall over here into the permeate system. And instead of sending the sap into the evaporator at 40 degrees, it'll typically go in. The lowest is around 130 as it cycles. The normal temperature is about 150 to 180 degrees. That gets another 15-20% efficiency out of every gallon of fuel that we burn. So those are some of the things that we do differently. Computer control, everything is automatically computer controlled. I run this facility with me. Typical day, unless I have to go chasing leaks or something for animal chews in my vacuum system during the season. When I have to go up in the woods and do that in the ice, my wife is here. We're on walkie-talkies in case I fall and hurt myself, so I get somebody get me help. But when I'm in the sugar house, everything is essentially controlled automatically, except for the evaporator. That I still do by hand. There's some little doodads and gadgets on there that help me do that, but that's managed by hand. That's the art of maple syrup.
That's awesome.
That's the art of sugar making.
Yes, thank you so
This is
much.
fascinating.
And what's your name?
Mike Richter.
On a deionized water there.
A what? Are we allowed to go in here? So sap tank this way. So they're both big. Here's, oh my, so this is the sap, and this is the recycled water?
Yeah, deionized water.
Deionized water. How cool is that? And it comes in, like, there's the tubes that he was talking about. So cool. Glad I came back this week. It was really cool to learn the science behind it. Like, the science behind these are all different. Like, everybody's does something different, which is really cool. And I give this place a 10 out of 10. The syrup, the dark syrup, was very maple flavored. I really liked it. And so glad I got to come back this week. All right, headed over to Martin's Lumber. Mike, thank you. That was amazing. Thank you so much. We've learned so much with this process, and it's amazing how different each place that we went to does their syrup. I mean, you get the syrup at the end, but everybody has a different process. But thank you, Mike. Thank you, everybody at Candy Mountain Maple. We had such an amazing experience, and thank you for joining me on my first episode of Coffee with ADK Nani. Everybody have a great week and enjoy life, because you never know how long it's going to last, right? Thanks, ADK Nani out.